Hello everybody, welcome to the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene, another episode of where we emit our knowledge of sports, which is a great deal.
It's very limited.
And with me is Bradley Hargis, and who I have to teach him about sports every session. And of course we're going to talk about a lot of things: high school basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, college basketball, of course the conference tournaments going on with the NCAA tournament around the bend, Selection Sunday coming up, and many other things, of course, to be discussed here as well. First off, we're going to cover with high school sports. Bledsoe County last night had a busy night on the sports scene. Had softball, baseball, and soccer both all playing at home different times, and so that was sort of the smorgasbord if you were a big fan there. And fortunately for Bledsoe County, they won all three of those contests. I think it was 4-3 over Marion County in soccer. And then it was like 6-3 over CCS in softball. They had a rally in the fifth to take the win, and of course I believe a 14-8 win over 18-4 win over I believe it was over Austin East, or was
Austin East.
Austin East. So basically, after it started out 0-2, the baseball team got a big win Tuesday night, and of course Thursday night the baseball team again having another game coming up and that sort of thing. To look at it this way, the baseball team, when the first two games they got hammered, yet in the third game they end up hammering the opponent.
Well, they allowed 15 runs in the first two games they played this year, scoring only 4 and 1 respectively, one against Grundy County and 4 against Ray County. But something woke them up yesterday, March 12th. They just decided to play a little baseball and come out with it's a 18-4. Sorry, 18-4 victory. Yeah, Bledsoe played good last night. And Austin East, that comes from the Knoxville area, so there's a level of talent there that may or may not exist in the Valley team. So I don't know that it was a pushover win. I think they played a very good game, and the record would show, or the result would show that.
Yeah, well, when you beat a Knoxville team out there, it indicates that you're getting better. There's no doubt about it. I mean, 18-4 is not just a close score. It is a wipeout. Now the girls started out a little rough, fell behind, but in the fifth, got on the board, rallied, won 6-3, and keeping their regular season streak alive. So basically, they started off well enough. And of course, next week, they have to go to Dunlap and then come back here and play Ray County in the next couple of games. Obviously, the girls are still have that talent base. They've only lost one senior last year.
Well, yeah, I mean they got their main pitchers back. Ella Baker, she's still at the helm there. You've got Josie Potter that's playing. You've got Macy Holland, you've got Camry Holland, you got all those girls that are back that are performing to a high level. You even have the real girls that are playing. Emma and Ava are both playing. Emma will be able to play hopefully before the season is out, letting her foot heal. She's out of the boot now, so she'll be back, and hopefully she can get out there. And she's a good slap hitter. And she just
Queen of the Bunts.
She makes contact with the ball and she's gone. She's just fast as lightning, and that's. So in softball, that's the name of the game. You're either a power hitter or you're a slap hitter. And if you got speed, then it's very difficult to get you out at first base if you make good contact with it.
The Queen of the Bunts, they call her. She does a lot of bunting. I mean, that's that sort of thing. And I think it sort of throws off the other team because you never know what you're going to get out of her. She's hit a few long ones, to be sure, but her specialty is bunting, and that's what she does, or slapping.
That's one of the most frustrating things for a team, whether it's fast pitch softball or slow pitch softball. A team or player that will just literally peck you to death. It's not necessarily that they don't swing for the fence, but they just drop it in for a hit about every time they get in the batter's box, and that, as an opposing team looking at that is so frustrating because you can't get them out.
That's right.
And in order to get to win the ball game, obviously you have to get on base, and Bledsoe County has done that. Their undefeated season last year would show that. I mean, they lost their last game, which would have put them in the state's next division, a state tournament, but that's just the way it goes. And they lost, like you mentioned, only one or two seniors, one that was a playmaker, and here they are coming in with a reloaded roster, so to speak. Few position changes. Camry Holland's now behind the plate catching, so I mean they're loaded, and they've got a chance to repeat this year as district champions, and even regular season champions, even tournament champions, if they stay healthy.
Yeah, well, it's the coaching. You had the coaches there know how to get it out of them, and when you have good coaching, you can do most. I think as one person said, you give a good coach very little, and they can do a lot. You give a mediocre coach a lot, and they can do nothing. And that's the way it is.
Well, the coaching staff for both, I mean, is certainly something to be commended on both those sports. So actually, all three of those sports we've mentioned: soccer, softball, and baseball, that we're on the topic right now. And certainly, the coaches do deserve a lot of credit for putting the players in the right positions, the right time, and putting them in the right order to get the max production out of them. Certainly, that has a hand to play in the process.
Yeah.
But you also can't give it all to the coach, because the players have to get out there and perform what they have trained to do, what they have been taught to do, and following the game plan that the coach has set up. And that's with any sport.
Yeah.
That's with any sport. You've got to get out there and actually perform and do it. I mean, it's one thing for the coach to say, hey, I expect this out of you, but if the player doesn't go out there and do said expectation and meet said expectation, then the game and the season is going to be a flop. So the players are buying into the mindset of these coaches of, hey, we want to win. It's happening in football, it's happening in baseball, it's happening in softball, it's happening in soccer, it's happening in basketball. The players are starting to buy into this, volleyball, buy into this mindset of, hey, we expect to win. We want to go out there, we want to play and compete and make a good stand, and we want to bring a championship, atmosphere to Bledsoe County, and that's key. That's where it starts. It has to start in the mind. If you got to believe you can do it before you can do anything. You
got improvement facilities. The softball stadium. They put brand new concession stands and that sort of thing, and they brought those in. The baseball, same way. They have an indoor practice facility for baseball. They have an indoor practice facility for football. They have done done everything, and I assume that this year we'll get that scoreboard back. if the wind doesn't score another touchdown on it,
Lord willing, the scoreboard will be up after this spring. And if it's up before this spring, I hope and I pray that it can withstand. It's in the ground deep enough to withstand these spring storms going to be coming our way this year. So who knows? We may have to keep it on chalkboard like they used to in the olden days.
I told these guys hold some signs up, put the signs up with it, and
get a couple big dry erase boards and have two guys hold up the thing
with the score and the time.
We won't be able to keep the time, but we can keep the score up down there.
The thing about it is, now I'm going to tell you this. I was at the Kingston covering the region basketball tournament, and they were. You know how it is during the football season, how they were mangling our players' names, right? You remember that one? They did it there. They did it there. So basically, that sort of. By the way, basketball, for those who are interested, Kingston lost the next week to Brainerd, so they got knocked out in the region tournament. The McMinn Central girls got to Murfreesboro, but got knocked out by York Institute. So those are very good teams that got knocked out.
It was a local team if you consider Chattanooga, Cleveland area local. I mean, this area, but Bradley Central did win the state championship.
Yeah, they did.
And the women's
they're
girls basketball.
They're eighth overall, and congratulations to them.
So that's semi-local.
Yeah.
But any time that somebody on this side of the, this area, this quadrant of the state, wins, I'm for that, unless it's a couple of teams, and I won't even mention who that is. So. Okay,
the boys soccer team did a good job. Won last night. I think it was 5-3 over Marion County, and they're 2-0. So they're getting a lot better and getting a lot of tutelage. So, like I said, you had a smorgasbord of teams played. You could go see the baseball team at 4 o'clock. You can then go over and watch the softball team play at 5:30.
The softball team started at 5.
Right.
the baseball game started at 6, and no, softball started at 4, baseball started at 5, and soccer started at 6. So you could watch an hour of the first 2 and then go over and watch the soccer game.
You could probably put a tower up there and watch all 3 at the same time.
If you set the right spot, you could probably see it all.
But that's the great thing. When I went to high school in the 70s, there was only you had football and basketball. You didn't have soccer. I don't know if you even had baseball. It's considered the baseball stadium was just right next to the street. Mm-hmm. And if you weren't careful, you're going to whack a ball into a car passing by, which is not really fun. But that tells you how it is. Ever since 2009, the facilities have been improved tremendously under Jason Reel and a group of teachers and administrators who wanted to make things better, who wanted to improve it. And you should know that, Brad.
Well, when I was in school, the baseball coach, he spent countless hours on that field, trying to bring it, make it better, painting, keeping the grass, sodded down and put in the right place and growing good, keeping it mowed. He put as much effort into that baseball field as Coach Brown put in the football field, trying to keep it in pristine condition. So and that comes with pride. I mean, you have to have pride in the program in order to get those things to happen. But one thing that they were lacking at that time, and again, not taking anything away from those who served as athletic directors, whatever, but the athletic director when I was in school was Dickie Brown. So money was, football or basketball. Not much was really earmarked for baseball and other sports.
No.
But now it's a little different.
Yeah.
Because you have an athletic director and an administration that's in place that wants to, 1, share the wealth. And 2, wants to see every aspect of high school sports in this town, at this school, succeed.
You want the Little Blue, you want the Wee Peas, you want them to provide, the elementary school basketball teams, baseball teams, softball teams, all those, it filters up. They're successful. They want to keep going to the higher and higher level.
And if you want to see what it takes to have a successful high school program across the board, I always go back to the model that Alcoa uses. You will not go to a Little League, or what we call Little Blue. You will not go to a Little League football game in a place like Alcoa and other parts of this area without seeing the high school football coaches and the high school players who are there helping coach, helping them in practice, watching the sidelines, helping them do what they need to do. It's a community effort. Same thing with baseball. You will not see Little League baseball unless you see those top programs with their coaches and with their players there supporting. And when the young people see that, and they see that, not only are my parents providing me a way to get here and these volunteer coaches coming to do it, but these people who are playing, I mean, even as you think about when you're playing, specifically Little Blue, when you're playing Pee-wees and Wee Peas, you go to the games on Friday nights and you hear the names of those kids called over the loudspeaker. That's equivalent to a high school team going to a college football game and hearing those. I mean, it's a revered almost as, hey, these guys are playing in what they consider the big leagues because that's all they know right now. So it's a level of respect, it's a level of expectation, and it filters. It not only trickles down, but it trickles up. Because both sides of this, the Little Leagues up into the high school, which is all we have in this county, covers all our bases. Because we don't have a college team, we don't have a pro team. So high schools, is where the majority of us, players in this county will top out. So we look forward to that. And when you have Little League players, and you have, high school players, middle school players, coaches, parents, community, and administrations coming together, here you have a successful formula for something great. We've already seen it in football. We've already seen it in softball. We've seen improvements in basketball. We've seen improvements in baseball. We've seen improvements in soccer. I mean, we went from having a co-ed team a few years ago to now having a boys and girls team now.
Absolutely.
So things are growing. Things are doing better. Volleyball is succeeding, for the high school. So across the board, by and large, Bledsoe County sports continues to be on the rise.
You know, I suggested to Coach Tabor that they ought to have a spring game like they have at UT or something like that, to where you have, like, you know, you divide up into 2 squads and go at each other.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and had the fans come in on a Saturday afternoon and watch the game and enjoy themselves and that sort of thing. Of course, you got the community involved in that, because they clean up the stadium, they repaint the stadium, they do all the things there. You know, you built on, you increase the size of the press boxes. You got the indoor facilities, you got everything else. I don't think one thing that is a thing in high school football today, I don't think it's going to come to Bledsoe County in the near future, and that's artificial turf on the field. And you know how that is. You know.
Well, Soddy Daisy is the latest one in this area to opt for artificial turf. Ray County did it, Dunlap did it. Of course, the private schools in Chattanooga, McCalla, and all those, they already had it. You know, but Soddy is the latest public school to opt for artificial turf.
I think we just ought to have a big screen TV on the sidelines so that we can watch the replay.
Yeah.
You know, it would be,
well,
that would be nice.
Tell you what, the only place that I know as far as the high school level that's got that in Tennessee is Alcoa. They bought Purdue's old jumbotron.
Yeah, I told the Alcoa people, I said, what, you could have the Vols play there or something like that? But you know, that
wouldn't be a bad idea though, Mike. You mentioned that at the spring game.
Yeah, they could have the spring game
to have the high school team perform and make it a community-wide thing. Have a massive cookout.
Yeah, just have a cookout beforehand.
Have everybody get together and
meet the players.
Yeah,
meet the coaches, that sort of thing. They had that with some preseason a few years ago when went down there. I was invited to come down there, and you know, this was when I met Coach Tabor, and you know, and this is what I told him, and I said, if there's one thing about these players, Coach Tabor, is that they will never quit on you.
Yeah,
they will never quit on you, and that proved to be true. Okay, everybody, we're going to go to a break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the basketball season, college basketball season, tournaments, and the NCAA and Tennessee Vols basketball. As you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18 and WATA AM 1110, Pikeville, Tennessee.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, we are back. We thought about bringing Bradley's cat in as a guest picker or whatever, but I think Bradley was too hot on that.
Mike is more obsessed with my cat than I am, and I don't think it's a secret that I don't get along with my cat. It's a hate relationship.
That God's little creatures.
And the spawn of Satan is what that cat is. And I've offered to give it to Mike, but he won't have it. He won't have it.
I got my own cat at home. He eats everything in sight. That's what the cat does. Anyway,
back to sports. What are you talking about?
Back to the lighter side of things, which is the college basketball. Regular season has ended. Tennessee's men's have won the SEC regular season crown with the win over South Carolina, but they lost to Kentucky in the finale, and that bumped them from 4th to 5th in the polls. But congratulations to the Vols. That's their first outright SEC title since I think the Don DeVoe era. And as a result, they have the '1 seed in the SEC tournament. They will not play until late in the week, and of course, everybody knows it's going to be Selection Sunday, NCAA tournament. Friday night, the Vols.
March 15th, SEC tournament begins.
They'll be playing the winner of somebody versus somebody. Mm-hmm. So that should be interesting. Then, of course, Sunday night is the NCAA selection show. A lot of people say Tennessee will get the #1 seed, probably out in the West.
Tennessee's projected to be #1, and that's something I don't really understand. Not that they're #1, but you've got Tennessee playing in the West bracket. You got a team, of course, it's a small team, Grand Canyon, which we know is out there on the west, in the western area, is playing in the East bracket. Geographically speaking, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how they do this. I mean, it is a good draw for Tennessee because they have, within their section of the bracket, they'll have Arizona, which is a really good team, a #2 seed.
Yeah.
But you won't see them until I guess you might call it the quarterfinals. The Elite Eight. So
now that's a projection. Now, mind you, this could change. Tennessee could end up being the Midwest or the East or the South region. That could happen. The thing about it is with the SEC, they're expecting 7 teams to be projected into the tournament. Kentucky, I think somewhere ranging from either on the #3 or the #5 seed, just depending upon where it's at. Now, Tennessee is favored to take down the Nets in the SEC tournament championship. Rick Barnes has brought this Tennessee team up to where it's consistently winning, something that doesn't done. I know a few Kentucky fans who sort of like are miffed because they're the kings in the SEC, but the fact of the matter is every king must fall. So there's probably a new king in Tennessee, that sort of thing. You look at Ray Mears. Now, Ray Mears was probably one of the most famous coaches in Tennessee basketball history. He came in and built the program up, and he beat Kentucky more often than not, and it drove Rupp crazy because Tennessee would do it. For example, Rupp would wear a brown suit, so Mears went out and wore a brown suit, and Rupp got erupted and mad and lost the game. It cost you your focus. That's what it was trying to do. But the thing about it is that Tennessee, up till about 10 years ago, was not a factor in the SEC basketball. They would win occasionally, all that, but they were not the factor. Then suddenly they would start to, they're pouring the resources, they're pouring the money into the basketball program as much as they're pouring in with the football program. Let's face facts. Tennessee is always going to be a football program. You know that, and I know that. They're always going to have this thing. They talked about one time. This is really true. This is true. In the 1980s, they thought about putting a basketball court out in the middle of Neyland Stadium in the winter and playing a game. Think of 100,000 basketball crazy ball fans watching a basketball game in there. I mean, could you see that?
Well, they already play in one of the biggest arenas in the country.
True, 25,000. I
mean, the Food City Arena, Thompson Bowling Arena, Food City Center, whatever you want to call it.
Summit.
The Summit. It is one of the largest in the country compared to even your bigger schools. I mean, it's bigger than North Carolina's even, or Duke's even.
Yeah.
So you play in Neyland, it'd be like watching the football game at Bristol.
Rupp Arena, where the Wildcats play. Okay, when he first built it, somebody goofed up and ordered orange seats to be put in the arena, and there was nothing Kentucky could do about it for a couple of years because they didn't have the money to replace them, and the Tennessee fans would just absolutely just go crazy going in there, and it drive Kentucky crazy, and Tennessee beat them a lot back then. But Ray Mears, he came in there and he got all the good players in there, and he started winning. And that's how the tradition is. And of course you had Don DeVoe. Then Wade Houston didn't do so good. And then of course you had Kevin O'Neill, and then you had Jerry Green, and then you had the guy who's at Auburn right now.
Bruce Pearl.
Bruce Pearl. Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name, and I don't mean that to be mad at him or anything like that. And then of course you had a lot of things going on there, and then you had
Martin came
Lonzo Martin, and then Wisconsin Martin got a bad deal because I felt a lot of UT fans would not accept him because he come right after Bruce Pearl, and everybody wanted Pearl back.
Yeah.
And but Conzo actually did very well. He got into the Elite Eight one year, and then he left and finally said, "Hey, I had enough. I can't take this anymore."
Yeah.
And then of course now you got Barnes right now, Rick Barnes.
They've got a wealth of talent right now on the team. By the way, but they've released the Monday.
Yeah.
The SEC released their awards, and 2 Tennessee players were part of that.
I think one got Player of the Year.
Dalton Knecht got the Player of the Year, and Zakai Ziegler was the Defensive Player of the Year. As far as the SEC accolades, and Knecht, by the way, is also a finalist for the Wooden Award.
That's very
that's for kind of like the Player of the Year for the for NCAA. So he's on one of the finalists for that. Averaging 21.4 points a game with 4.8 rebounds and 1 plate assist. He's shooting 47% from the field. I mean, this is his first year playing in D1. He transferred from Northern Colorado.
Right.
Imagine what he could have accomplished if he had transferred, say, 2 or 3 years ago and started his career at Tennessee or already anywhere. He would have been an amazing.
We would have been up with King and with Bernard King.
Oh yeah.
The thing about it is that the thing that favors Tennessee is lack of injuries. They don't have a massive injuries like they usually have in the past.
You had to go and say that.
Well, I had to say it because
every time any sports fan knows. It's like, and the people who are watching this are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Any sports fan knows that if you say, well, we've not fumbled the ball all game, guess what? You jinx it, they fumble.
Well, I said that last year in Bledsoe County.
He's not throwing an interception.
They didn't fumble.
He's not throwing an interception in 70 straight attempts. So guess what? Next play, interception. Well, he's not struck out in 45 straight at bats. Well, guess what? He struck. You jinx the team, and if one of our players gets hurt and don't get a play in the SEC tournament, NCAA tournament, I'm coming to find you. You're not hard to find, and everybody will know why Tennessee.
See, this is what he does. This is what he does. I said last year during the football season, I said Bledsoe did not fumble the football once during that game, and it didn't happen. Now, how can you explain?
You don't take the chance of jinxing the team, though.
I just jinxing the team. Oh, God. What's wrong with you?
Am I the only? I can't be the only person who loves sports and knows that those superstitions can be very, very valid if you jinx a team like that. I can't be the only one.
Well, I'll tell you something. Last year when we had Coach Tabor in here, we told you got together with Coach Tabor and did I told you about there's no such thing as possum womp.
There is.
You got him to give you that line, and he told me all about it. Now you want to tell me that Coach Tabor's lying?
You can't be going and spreading these false rumors, Mike, just to cover up the fact that you didn't know what it was and we did.
It does not exist. Possum womp does not exist.
You out here spreading these falsehoods, knowing good and well that possum womp is an actual thing. You're the one that Googled it. Google it. I challenge every one of you here to Google possum womp, and I'll promise you will find there is an article on there, and it will tell you exactly what possum womp means. If you're having trouble figuring it out, just Google it. Mike did, and he come back and said, I've got to concede the fact that, yes, possum womp is a thing because I looked it up, and it is there. So,
I told you it still doesn't exist, but there's no such thing as possum womp. Okay, well, let's talk a little about college football. There are a lot of people.
Wait a minute. Now, you can't go away from basketball without talking about the lady basketball team.
Okay, let's talk about the lady balls.
I mean, you got to stay within the sport here. I mean, Tennessee's not ranked Lady Vols aren't ranked. However, they're likely going to be a number 9 seed.
That's right.
They took South Carolina down to the wire. If you watched that ball game,
Yeah,
you were
South
heartbroken
Carolina
as I am.
scored that bucket on with the second remaining.
She had not hit a 3-pointer in her entire college career, and they left her unguarded, and she just throws it up with a prayer and a heave, and it goes in. A bank shot.
You jinxed it, and you jinxed it.
A bank shot.
You jinxed the ball.
And it was heartbreaking, but that goes to show you, Tennessee has got the ability to compete at any level. You got a lot of people who are Tennessee fans who were naysayers of Holly Wardick, and okay, I get it. You can make that argument, but you could also make an argument for her. Now you've got those same people that are naysaying about Kelly Jolly, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, Harper, sorry, Kelly Jolly's what she was. When she
Kelly
played.
Harper now.
Old habits hard to break.
Yeah.
But now you've got people harping on Kelly Harper, saying that she need to be replaced. We proved that we could go to the wire with the elite teams in the country this year. We lost those games, but we came very close to beating South Carolina twice.
That's right.
We came very close to winning some very large games.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things that the talent is there. The talent is there. And they're not what they were when, obviously, yes, they're not the talent they were when Pat Summitt was here, but the whole climate around basketball, women's basketball, is not the same as it was when Pat Summitt was here either. Because the teams that were not very good then are exceptional now.
Yeah.
I mean, the teams that were very good then they've kind of failed a little bit. How long has it been since UConn has been ranked low as number 10? UConn's always the top 2 or 3.
Yeah, they're
always at the top. And then you have teams like Ohio State that's come up. You have LSU. They got Mulkey from Baylor, and she's up there, and she's brought that team, up to the next level. I mean, Dawn Staley at South Carolina, whether you like them or not.
Yeah.
Whether you like the coaches or not, look what they have accomplished with their team. Give Kelly Harper a chance, because he's shown she can compete. And if the team, yes, they lost, but if the team doesn't realize that they have the ability to compete at the next level, something's wrong.
Absolutely.
Something's wrong.
Absolutely.
They should have beat South Carolina in the SEC tournament, and if they hit their foul shots, they would have.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And I've always said in my whole life, I've always been taught, and I've always preached, I've always said, you win ball games by getting the most rebounds and hitting your foul shots. That's how you win ball games.
That's how you do things.
And Tennessee did that.
Yeah.
Minus the foul shots.
And
against South Carolina, and lost in semifinals.
Yeah.
So, they had the ability to compete, but they are going to be a 9 seed, likely be a 9 seed in the women's tournament. So that's a plus. I mean, so we have.
We'll find that out next week when they announce the women's pairings. Of course, the men's pairings, of course, are going to be a Sunday. It's a night selection Sunday. Tennessee either 1 or 2 seed, most likely. That sort of thing depends on how they do in the SEC tournament. That sort of thing. Now let's go to college football. Now we talked about the conference realignments, the expansions, and that sort of thing. There is some people coming up with that they ought to go back to what it was, but pre-1990, when you had all the conferences, the Pac-10, the Big 8, the Southwest Conference, SEC, ACC, and that sort of thing. They ought to go back to having those teams only that were in there at the time. Of course, in the SEC, some people want to kick Vanderbilt out. Okay, in the Big 10, Northwestern wants to kick out. In the Pac-10, Stanford or Cal should get kicked out and form their own little independent, called the Academic League or something like that. And of course, there actually some talk among some people in the SEC that to ask the non-productive, in football, non-revenue producing teams in the SEC to be kicked out. Now the big problem is that Vanderbilt is grandfathered in because basically they were a founding member of the SEC.
Well, see, you can't base this just on baseball.
Yeah, football. Yeah,
football.
Yeah.
Because Vanderbilt has an outstanding baseball team.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
And they have a very competitive basketball team, which brings a lot of revenue into the SEC. And you look at teams like, the smaller teams, Mississippi State, mediocre football team, exceptional baseball team. You look at Arkansas; they have a mediocre football team, although it is on the rise.
Right.
but they have a #1 ranked baseball team in the country.
Yeah.
So whether you can't just look at football on these SEC teams and say, well, the non-productive football schools need to be kicked out, because what they lack in football, they make up revenue in the other sports.
You know, the Big East, you look at the Big East some years ago when it was in existence, they kicked out, what did they kicked out? Temple?
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't win a conference game. And then when Temple left and started winning, please come back, you know, that sort of thing. But, you know, the thing about what it is they talked about this sort of like is that you look at Vanderbilt, their football stadium, it's the smallest in the SEC. It's 41,000. They're an academic institution. They're not a state institution. They're a private school.
Right.
And has said they give a sort of Harvard-like thing parents. But, you know, as one person said, Vanderbilt cannot be Harvard Monday through Friday and Alabama on Saturday. It just doesn't work. They've never won an SEC title in their lives. Closest they come was second in 1935. You know, they have 41,000 seats. I don't see them putting any more seats in there. And all that construction seems to be made them look really foolish when you saw it on TV.
Yeah. I mean, the location where they are, there's not really much they can do.
Yeah. You know,
I mean, downtown Nashville, there's not really much room to expand.
Well, you know, they're just off the downtown area, but you know, the fact right now is that you know, they could put seats in the end zone that doesn't have seats. I mean, that put like an extra 10,000.
Well, hey,
seats.
the Titans are supposedly getting a new stadium.
Yeah,
so
we take over the Titans Stadium.
They can just bump right over there.
60,000 right there. That's 65,000 right there. You could do it that way. But you know, the thing about it is that Vanderbilt some years ago actually agreed, because what it was that when the Oilers came to Nashville, they played in Vanderbilt Stadium for a couple of years before their stadium got done, and then the Titans said, "Hey, look, come play in our stadium for a couple of games." You know, so they had Tennessee over there, and you had 65,000, and you saw it was mostly orange. The fan base is just not there for Vanderbilt like at Tennessee or Auburn.
Not on the football side.
Not on the football side, but
now you put baseball in there and you put basketball in there, you got yourself competition. I'm not saying that it's going to overcome anything that, you know, especially you're comparing, you know, Vanderbilt to Tennessee. You know, again, that's almost like comparing on a sports level sports. That's comparing middle school to high school. It's just, I'm not saying that Vanderbilt's that bad. I'm just saying that on other levels of sports, you know, and the fan base and the ability, it's just most people are going to pick Tennessee or Florida or, you know, Georgia or somebody like that over Vanderbilt. But they, again, like I said, they have one of the more elite baseball teams in the country.
Yeah,
they're always in the top 10.
Right.
Tennessee has just recently overperformed and has started making a name for themselves, you know, and on the baseball side. But also the basketball, men's basketball, Vanderbilt has always been a good performer.
Don't forget the bowling team at Vanderbilt. They won a national championship.
Yeah, let's talk about that badminton team. How about that? You know, but yeah, like I said, you can't just. I'm guilty of it too, of looking at, you know, conferences based solely on football, because that's one of my favorite sports.
That's your big thing.
But you look at the other sports. I mean, there's a whole lot of money that comes out of Nashville when it comes to basketball, baseball,
you look at
golf.
Yeah.
I mean, they succeed in those things.
Yeah.
You know, consistently more than they do football. I don't think it's fair to look at a team like Vanderbilt, you know, or a team like Mississippi State, or you know, or somebody like that, and say, "Hey, we don't want you now." You know, I think that should be now. If it would be a completely different story if, like, say, the Big 10 or the Big 12 or whatever looked over and said, "Hey, Vanderbilt, we would like you to join us," and Vandy did. They'd be dumb to do that.
Vanderbilt wouldn't do it. Vandy wouldn't do it
because of the revenue that the SEC logo brings in and of itself. But it would be different if they left on their own accord. But I just don't think it's fair to look for the SEC people to look at them and be like, "Hey, we don't want you anymore. You need to get out." You know, same way it is with, you know, the Big 10. They shouldn't look at Northwestern and say, "Hey, you got to go."
Yeah.
You know, that just doesn't make any sense.
Northwestern has had more success on the football field recently. They won a Big 10 titles a couple times. You know, look at it this way. You look at the SEC. When it was formed in 1933, it had 13 members. The 10 and then the other 3. And they were Tulane, Georgia Tech, and Sewanee. Sewanee left, and you know the reason why? They wanted to downgrade their football program, and they were 0-39. They couldn't beat anybody in the SEC. And have you ever seen their football stadium? Definitely, that's not definitely that's not an SEC style stadium. That's a little bigger than a high school stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That's about that. And then you had Georgia Tech. They left because they complained about the scheduling. They were playing Tennessee, they were playing Alabama, they were playing Auburn. You know, the 3 in a row. And Bobby Dodd didn't think it was fair. The SEC said, well, we'll change that around, and never did. So he left in 64.
Well, they sure wouldn't like it now.
Yeah, the Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech. Now, Tulane left in 66 because they couldn't win either. They were getting beat around the edges by just about everybody in the SEC, and they decided they were going to find greener pastures. Now, you look at Tulane now; they're one of the better college football teams now and building up their program. Now, of course, now you got Texas and Oklahoma coming in. Why, I do not know, unless it's just for money. And now I think Texas and Oklahoma should just stay in the Big 12, where they could beat up on everybody and win all these games.
I personally didn't agree with Texas A&M and Missouri coming to the SEC because that's not Southeastern Conference.
Yeah.
Especially when you had teams here in the Southeastern region that would make more sense geographically speaking. I've always said Florida State. Well, that was knocked in the head because
Florida didn't want it.
Florida don't want it. And I've always said, well, there's Clemson. Well, South Carolina didn't
said,
want
I don't want it either.
And then I said, if we're going to add 2 teams, add North Carolina and Duke.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're North Carolina teams, which is relatively still southeast. And I mean, and I would even make more sense to even have Virginia or Virginia Tech.
Or NC State.
Or NC State than it would to go west and pull,
or Memphis.
Memphis. Georgia Tech getting back. There's always Miami that's still in the SEC. I mean, for that matter, UCF that's performed well the past few years. Could have stepped up. And maybe got a shot at the SEC. It just doesn't make sense why you would look over or not even entertain the option of bringing those teams in, but going west. And it's like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's a money thing. You look at Texas. If you bring Texas into the SEC, you bring arguably one of the largest money-making schools in the country into an already wealthiest conference in the country.
Well, the thing about it is that when Texas tried to join the Pac-12 a few years back, they said you got to give up the Longhorn Network. Texas said no. When they went to the SEC and wanted to join, they said you got to give up the Longhorn Network, and Texas said yes, we'll give it up, because basically that's if you watch the Longhorn Network, it's just all about Texas. They actually had to force the Big 12 Texas, the Longhorn Network, to show other Big 12 games as well on their network. But of course, it doesn't make so much sense as what the Big Ten is doing. Getting the Pac-12 teams to come in, geographically it makes no sense. The ACC getting a couple of big Pac-12 team, 1 or 2 Pac-12 teams plus a Big 12 team in SMU to join. What sense does that make? I mean, like this. Yeah, at least the SEC stays in a certain boundary.
It just does not make sense for teams to come from the West Coast and play in a conference that's majority on the East Coast. It does not make any sense. And the NCAA is eventually they're probably going to step in and say, all right, we're going to bust these things up.
Yeah.
What's going to happen though is if they do that, what's going to happen? You write this down. If the NCAA comes in and says, okay, we're going to have some more conference realignments, and we are going to decide who is where.
Yeah.
Big deal. SEC is probably going to be like, okay, fine. Then we are withdrawing from the NCAA. We're going to make our own conference. We're going to make our own rules, make our own association. When that happens, other conferences are going to follow.
Yeah.
And I look for, within the near future, probably in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I honestly believe, especially on the football spectrum, I'm just at the court again. That's what I always gravitate to, is the football. I see the SEC, the ACC, and the Big Ten, and even the Big 12 completely pulling away from the NCAA and making their own league.
Well, there was a proposal one time about taking it. It's breaking up the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12. Breaking up and putting what you call regional conferences. Like Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, Vanderbilt would be what they call the hillbilly. Hillbilly League. This is just the name, Hillbilly, and then you have the Coastal League, which is like NC State, Duke, North Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina, Florida State. Then you have what's known as the Antebellum League, which is Georgia, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU. I started, and they would have the Midwest League, which would be like Ohio State, Michigan, some members of the Big Ten, and then you have the Left Coast League, which is UCLA, USC, Washington State, Washington, Oregon State, that sort of thing. And then they talked about the Texas League, which is all the Texas schools. And they talked about those things. Something the NCAA is going to have to do something about. They're gonna. I mean, this is the money talks thing is just not going to play well here.
I like the thought of keeping the conferences geographically sound. I get it. That makes sense to me. But I don't think it should go to the point where the NCAA steps in and says, no, we're going to break these conferences up and realign it on our own. I don't like that because, again, you get into popularity contests and you mentioned the money, who's going to give the most, who's going to get this and that. So it's just hard for them. It would be hard for me to accept that. But I do believe, honestly, though, that the vast majority, and what's kind of pole vaulted this into from theory into probability. Is this NIL stuff that they're doing?
Yeah, they're going
because the NCAA are basically trying to. Of course, Tennessee won the injunction. I mean, they won that, basically saying that if they tried to punish them, they couldn't. But the NCAA is so vague on the rules for this NIL. If they start going and investigating colleges and start coming in and penalizing them for breaking a rule that is not an actual rule, it's just an implication. You can't punish somebody in implication. The same way you can't punish somebody in if you go into court of law and it says, well, it's implied. No, I'm sorry, that don't hold water. That don't hold water at all. So I look for, they're going to keep on pecking, keep on poking the bear.
And the bear.
And the SEC, big conference like the SEC, the Big Ten, ACC, all of those teams are going to be like, you know what? We don't need you. And they don't.
They don't.
The SEC right now, especially now that they have expanded and added those 4 teams, Texas A&M, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas. And it's just only a matter of time before Oklahoma State comes over. And it's only a matter of time before they renew that rivalry with Oklahoma and being part of the SEC. I mean, it's going to happen. I see it going to happen. And I see a team like even Baylor or TCU coming over to the SEC. And if that happens, the SEC's got enough that they can be like, you know what, we don't do our own thing. They make their own money anyway. They make more money than the NCAA does.
Yeah.
So just by their brand.
Yeah.
So it's just, and the NIL thing, and that's one thing that I was reading. When Saban went to the Capitol Hill Round Table, Ted Cruz invited him up there to talk about the NIL and the status of college football. And if you watch that video, you'll see he brings to light a conversation that he and his wife Terry had.
Yeah.
And he says, and the quote that I have here, all the things that I believed in, this is Nick Saban, all the things that I believed in for all these years, 50 years of coaching, no longer exist in college athletics.
Absolutely.
It was always about developing players. It was always about helping people be more successful in life. There was a back and forth between he and his wife because he said they wanted to bring the recruits over to the house with their parents.
Yeah.
And they would have a meal and have a talk and say, well, this is the Terry, his wife, would go and talk to the mothers and say, well, this is what I'm going to do to help develop your
son,
help your son to succeed.
Yep.
And Coach Saban would talk to the men, the dads, and say, this is what I'm going to do to help develop your son and make him successful.
Yep.
And that was all well and good. And she even went and asked Nick Saban last year, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And his conversation with her, which included the quote that I just read.
Yeah.
The conversation was, why are we doing this? We used to develop players, and now it's all about how much money you're going to pay them.
Yeah.
And that's true.
That's true.
That's true. And it's changed the face of college football, and it's going to continue to change the face of college sports, college athletics across the board. They've got to get a grip on it. They've got to do something.
Yeah, something's going to have to be done.
They've got to make a clear and concise order or rule saying you cannot get above this much or this many NIL sponsors. You've got to do something.
You also got scheduling to be concerned about. You know, the SEC's going to have to schedule. How many of these rivalries are going to be broken up? You know, Alabama, Tennessee. You have Auburn out. Alabama and Auburn are not going to break up their rivalry. That's Georgia, Florida, the same way. So you know who you're going to have. That's going to be this. That's going to be, you know, Tennessee. You know, does Tennessee and Vanderbilt keep playing each other every year? Does Tennessee Kentucky keep playing each other? Does Tennessee Alabama play each other every year?
If Alabama and Auburn continue that rivalry, which I'm sure that is going to be the same.
That's almost a dead
because it's a in-state rival. It's going to happen. I mean, no matter how much history there is with the Tennessee Alabama rivalry, that one will Tennessee Auburn Alabama is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Florida Georgia is not going anywhere.
Yeah, right.
So if that be the case, then I look for Kentucky to be the primary rival for Tennessee.
Yeah, well, because I think in a way, but I think in a way is that Vanderbilt and Tennessee would be the other two schools. But you know, a couple of years ago, where Meigs County wanted us to give up the Bledsoe-Sequatchie rivalry so they could play us in football. That was not going to happen because that's the rival.
I almost had to reach up and hold my forehead to keep my eyeballs from literally rolling around and around when you brought that up, because that was just the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of in my life.
Yeah.
When there were other options.
Yeah, I think Meigs just wanted to ruin it in a way to take a shot at us and that sort of thing and then what's going to happen? The next year we go down there and we beat them, and that was a funny thing. Okay, everybody, we're gonna go to a break, and then when we come back, we're gonna talk some miscellaneous stuff, and then sort of wrap up our little show here.
We can't forget. We got to talk about these guys.
No, I know you talk about the Dodgers. Okay, anyway, we'll be back in just a minute as you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18.
Support small business and shop DunlapMercantile.com.
A good bank has people you can depend on, people who grew up here and can handle today's issues and growing technology. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, this is the way we've served the community for almost 50 years. Ready to help you in person, online, and on our app whenever you need it. Choose the bank that cares about you. Citizens Tri-County Bank, the only community bank you'll ever need.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, everybody, we're back, and we're going to talk about some miscellaneous items, including the Bradley's favorite baseball team, the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I'm already having to massage my arm. It's spring training, but I've already been chopping so much. I think I've got both sides.
Lumbago often is the cause of that, But like I said, it's a Florida State thing, by the way, with Neon bringing that to Atlanta. And by the way, of course. Baseball season, I think they're finishing up spring training. I think is that the regular season is scheduled to start shortly. and we'll see how that goes this year.
March 28th, we have the opening. Braves open up at Philadelphia, and then they play that Thursday, and they're off Friday and play Saturday and Sunday at Philadelphia, and then Chicago White Sox, and then the following weekend, this is on April the 5th, they open at home against Arizona.
Okay.
So if you're looking for a chance to go see the next World Series champions, you're going to have plenty of opportunities to do that because they're at home. Starting with Arizona, and they're going to have New York Mets, and they go on the road, and their next 2 weekends they're at home. So you've got plenty of opportunities to go watch these guys. And hey, I'm just saying the two best pitching rotations in baseball right now. Before the Braves signed Chris Sale from the Red Sox, the Braves had, they thought, the third or fourth best.
Well, I'm going to tell you who.
But now, I hold the phone a minute. But now, because they signed Chris Sale, that gives them Max Fried, Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton, and it's not going to be his last year, but he's still a solid player. Chris Sale, and you have Bryce Elder, and you also have two other guys that are up and coming that could potentially challenge Bryce Elder for that last rotation spot, Ronaldo Lopez and A.J. Smith-Shawver, who was sent down to the minors. So those two guys are up and coming too. We've got a wealth of talent. And the second team that is the number 2 rotation is your beloved Dodgers that you say that is, that I'm a fan of all the time. They signed the Japanese guy Yoshimo Yamamoto. Paid him a gob of money to bring him across the big pond. And Tyler Glasnow, who was pitching at Tampa Bay, they signed him, so now he is a Dodger. Then of course they have Emmett Sheehan, Bobby Miller, Walker Buehler. He played maybe a season, he's played like maybe 67 games over the last 2 seasons. He's been hurt, and their other star pitcher, Kershaw, he had shoulder surgery in November, so he's not going to be back for another 60 days. So they signed those two guys, Glasnow and Yamamoto, basically to cover up, the amiss, potentially not having Buehler and not having Kershaw. Now, when they get healthy, you're going to have and then you can't forget they signed Shohei Ohtani, and he can pitch.
Yeah,
he pitched and DH'd for the Angels last year. So past few years. So he definitely has the ability to get up there and throw the ball. So the Dodgers have a wealth of talent, but so do the Braves.
Well,
it's going to come down.
I will tell you who will win the World Series title this year.
Who's that?
The A's. The Oakland A's, or the Las Vegas A's, or whatever they.
Mark it down. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. It's going to be the Braves and the Dodgers in the National Championship Series.
National League,
NLCS.
And the
winner of the NLCS will be your World Series champions.
I'm about to put the fear into Braves fans by saying this one word, Choketober. And everybody knows it. And this is Choketober. And when it happens, I'm going to put a banner up that says Atlanta Braves, Choketober champions.
And I'm going to change the direction of my chop to this, to this. And I'm going to hit a lot harder. So you go right ahead.
Yeah, but the thing about it is they're talking about expanding Major League Baseball, putting a couple, 2 or 3 more teams in there into the mix. What's some of the places that you would like to see? Nashville, Montreal, or
Nashville was in the running there at one time when the A's were thinking of moving. Yeah. It came down to Nashville and Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And of course, the market in Las Vegas, obviously, they pulled more support, and being closer to most of your Oakland faithful, they kept it over there, closer to the West Coast. You got some people in Las Vegas that are saying wanting the A's to stay in Oakland. Honestly, I mean they were not very well received there.
Yeah.
But Nashville, they're making pitches for, no pun intended, making pitches for a baseball team.
Yeah.
Montreal, they are making pitches for a baseball team to return to Montreal.
Right.
Remember the Expos moved to Washington, became the Nationals. So they lost theirs. And then you have Las Vegas is getting the A's, so Oakland, will be without a team.
How about
a baseball team?
How about Brooklyn? I mean, Brooklyn used to be the Dodgers.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get another New York team.
Yeah, I mean, of course you got the Mets and the. I went and saw Mets play when I went on a senior trip in 1980 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't remember who won, and all that. And we had a classmate there, who won the big prize. Hot dogs, Cokes for classmates, and a chance to sit up in the press box. And like the fool he was, he turned down the press box. And that sort of thing. Of course, they announced our class over the loudspeakers, which was great. But that was the first time I ever saw a pro baseball game, and I thought that was great.
Well, of course, you've also got cities like Oklahoma City.
That's another place.
They could be a potential landing spot. I don't see
Memphis, no.
I don't see a city large enough for a market to have it in the Dakotas or Montana.
No, that's sparsely.
But you're going to have Oklahoma City's definitely a thought. Nashville's a thought. Oakland's a thought. You could have it anyway. You could. Dallas could be another place to have a baseball team. You have Texas Rangers down here, Arlington. Well, I mean, yeah, you got the Rangers in Arlington. You've got the Houston Astros that right there close,
right.
And then you have, Texas is pretty much covered.
Yeah.
Most of them are Ranger fans around in that area. But yeah, Dallas, Fort Worth area, that could be a market to support a baseball team. But it'd be nice to have, a team here in Nashville. I think here in our home state, I think Nashville could support that, and I'd have been fine with them being the Nashville A's.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have bothered me at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd still been a Braves fan, but I'd have had me some Kelly Green and some yellow to wear around because, the A's are an historical team, so, it'd have been nice to have them.
Let's talk a little about pro football. Hendon Hooker, who was signed with the Detroit Lions, and he had spent the whole season rehabbing his injury. Well, apparently they have a big problem because their quarterback they got now apparently is doing very good. He nearly got them to the Super Bowl. And Hendon Hooker is just more or less probably will not get to play as a starter. He will play apparently as should he be traded to another team? Should he?
Well, here the dilemma you have with that is there are not because of his injury. He's not going to have a chance to show his full potential as a starter. Because of that, it's going to be very difficult for a team to take a chance and trade or even sign him. And that's unfortunate for Hendon. It really is, because I think Hendon Hooker is smart enough and he is good enough to be a potential NFL starter. He should get a chance. But Jared Goff is playing lights out right now. And they have made it abundantly clear in Detroit, Jared Goff is their guy.
It's their man.
So it's Hendon's in a bad spot. Because he could go and compete for a job, somewhere else. I kind of thought that maybe the Buccaneers would make a move for somebody like Hendon Hooker
or the Titans.
The Titans, they drafted the guy from Kentucky. So they think he's the future of the Titans.
He could be that.
But they're on a downhill spiral anyway. The Titans are just whatever. But then the Buccaneers turn right around and sign Baker Mayfield to a multi-year deal. And I'm thinking, Hendon Hooker's better than Baker Mayfield.
Well, look at Joe Milton. Joe Milton's obviously looks like he'll be drafted high.
Oh, he impressed amazingly and outstandingly at the NFL Combine. I mean, he threw the ball as good, if not better, than the vast majority of people on the field.
Third round, probably.
Third round. So,
but a lot of things happening here between now and the fall, and a lot of things with baseball and that sort of thing. And just remember is that if the A's do win the World Series title, you're going to see that banner right behind you with me proclaiming the Oakland A's are the best team.
It's going to be the Braves or the Dodgers.
Okay, Yeah, and you can quote me on that. You can quote me on that. But anyway, so this will do it for us here at the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene. And of course, we'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll discuss some more things. The NCAA tournaments will be playing full forward and see if Tennessee and all the other teams that are projected to high are going to make it through there. And we're going to see a lot of things happening. Baseball season will start shortly, and Bradley will give us some updates on that as well. And plus, the normal stuff. And of course, the baseball team playing Thursday night. I believe they're hosting Marion County. And then, of course, the softball team will be at Dunlap, and then we'll be hosting Ray County next week. And we'll have the broadcast of that game, the Sequatchie County game, next Tuesday afternoon here on WAT. We hope that you will join in for us, or we'll go down to Dunlap and cheer on the Lady Warriors on the victory here tonight. As we say, Bradley, you got some final words you want to say, and I know you're going to say them.
Well, I always close out the same signature line because it's just altogether fitting here in Bledsoe County.
Going to take another half hour, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we're going to take another 30 minutes to sit back down and pop another bag of popcorn. No, I'm going to tell you one last thing. It's always going to be Go Blue. It's always going to be Go Braves. And it's always going to be Go Big Orange. So, March Madness, baseball, life is good right now. And it is definitely good in Bledsoe County. Softball and baseball is getting wound up, so get out there and support. And let's have a good time. And remember, if you're gonna dish it out, you better be willing to take it. You better be willing to take it, because when the Braves win the World Series, I want to come back and I want to serve warm crow to him the day after. So we're gonna have a good time with it.
Yeah, I bet you will. So like I said, we're of course we'll see you in 2 weeks, and of course Bledsoe County's spring sports in full swing. We want everybody to support the Warriors and everything to do, and hopefully have a very successful season. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks here on the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telecooperative Channel 18 and WAT AM 1110. Good day, everybody.
Brought to you by Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative in the Sequatchie Valley.